Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the subject of this 10-minute moan is three things that Humza's getting his nose into where he really shouldn't. The first one is deciding that UN, RWA are quite good to deal with. The second one is Putin's a killer. And the third one is his amazing record of meeting international dignitaries, which isn't his job, right? Now, the first thing, it was just something he put a tweet out about couple of 3 weeks ago, you know, when they found out the UN RWA staff had been involved in the 7th of October atrocities and the terror attack in Israel. And what we seen after that was the UN RWA immediately fired every single one of them. I think there was about a dozen people they fired out their organisation, right? And since then, the Israeli troops have found a tunnelled centre that looked as if it had been used for intelligence gathering underneath the UNWRA's headquarters in Gaza. However, as world leaders around the world were publicly stating that they were going to suspend, cease, stop for a wee while, whatever how they termed it, funding the UNRWA, Humza took to Twitter to reassure the organisation that Scotland had not stopped the funding. We just didn't have any money to give them right now, but as soon as he could, he would give them more. Now, is that not a bit bonkers? Against the rest of the world, all going, they're maybe not that clever. We should maybe stop giving them money because there have been people going. Now, some people are suggesting, but there's no proof. Well, if there's no proof, why did the UN RWA sack their staff immediately? Because their staff have got like rights and stuff like that, regardless of where they work. And they had two other options open to them. They could have suspended them and had an internal inquiry, which would have been sort of normal. Or, if they felt it was just for political reasons and it may be a wee bit unsavoury having them still there, they could have moved them to many other United Nations posts throughout that very large organisation. They didn't. They sacked them on the spot. But Humza, he thinks they're all right. Okay, now that was number one. And the reason that I mention that is, Humza took again to Twitter yesterday. Let me just pull up his tweet so that I'm not giving... So yesterday, 16th of February, there's a guy, Alexei Navalny, I think you pronounce his name, who was quite outspoken and an opponent of Putin's. Quite bravely returned to Russia recently, and as expected, he was quickly arrested and he was put in prison. He didn't last too long in prison, and unfortunately yesterday was found dead in his cell. Now, you might want to join the dots, use even common sense and logic, and those dots might join that murder back to Putin. It may or may not. I don't know. Last I looked, they were unable to ascertain any cause of death. Now, I think it might be probable that it was suicide. You know, one of these suicides that happen in jail quite regular in the world these days. But right till now, when he took to Twitter, there was no actual cause of death listed. But Humza's decided that it's Putin's fault. Now, the reason this has came to my head again is like 2-3 weeks ago, where the evidence quite clearly suggested the UN RWA were in fact heavily linked to terror, and since then the suggestions just got stronger because of these tunnels they've found underneath their HQ. Yet Humza, well, we'll still support UN RWA, they're a good cause helping the people of Gaza, right? But 2 feet right in yesterday, Putin's a bad guy. What he said was there should be no equivocation about it. Putin should be held accountable for the death of Alexei Navalny. Alexei demonstrated a colossal amount of courage in standing up to the Putin regime. That might very well be true, despite the torture he knew he would endure. Again, there is no suggestions of torture. Now, he may or may not have been tortured. I don't know, right? But I'm not the First Minister of Scotland and jumping in 2 feet, claiming this. He's not saying it could possibly be Putin should be looked at, this case should, right? He's there, 2 feet, right in there, not even get the wellies off. Here, Putin, you're a crackpot. And then the pure virtue signalling bit. My thoughts with Alexi's wife and family. I bet you don't know his missus' name, right? Or would maybe I put it down there? Just total vomit-inducing, virtual signalling, trying to gauge where everybody's thoughts will be and jump right in. Now, again, I must stress, I think the likelihood is it might be Putin, might have something to do with it. But right now, we don't know. And this is a guy who's quite dangerous in the terms of world politics. And this idiot, who's the First Minister of Scotland, is putting his nose into stuff that he's no need to get involved with. Now, if Putin is such a bad person, and the First Minister of Scotland is jumping in there with 2 feet, talking on behalf of the Scottish people, because that's what he does, that's quite a dangerous statement to make. And could be, although probably not, but could be completely inaccurate. And me, for one, think that's highly stupid. Right? It is a pure stupid stance to take when you don't know. Now, if it comes to pass and there's more evidence available and Putin was involved in some way through his secret services, whatever, then fine. You make a decision as a person, you go and make that tweet. But you cannot do that when the facts are not there to stack up what you are saying in a very volatile situation. Bear in mind, this is a man who has his country currently at war with the Ukraine. Not too happy with UN, and now we've got a crackpot coming out and saying Putin's a bad person. And what was it? He should be held accountable for the death of Alexei Navalny. Would it not be wise to say Putin should be held accountable to maybe figure out what happened to Alexei? Something like that. And then the other thing that's come up just today, I think it was the Daily Express, highlighted, don't know whether the information's freely available or they've done an FOI on it, but Humza, the headline's Humza surge in meetings with foreign dignitaries as SNP leader tries to make himself a statesman. The number of meetings attended by the First Minister on international relations rose by 900% in Mr Yousaf's 5 months in office compared to Nicola Sturgeon's last 6 months in office. Right? Again, I need to remind you, this is a guy that's already been warned by the British government that he has no devolved power for foreign affairs. Now, when we go down here, it tells you 20 meetings in 5 months. My computer's flicking about a bit. You got too keen when I press the button here, it's flying through. Between April and August last year, don't know if that's including April and August or between, which could be May, June and July, right? That must include them because it said 5 months. He attended 20 meetings under the subject international relations according to analysis of Scottish Government records. Now, that only takes you up to August. Since then, we obviously know about the meeting he had with the Turkish Prime Minister, which went totally against the diplomatic protocols, where he's meant to have UK diplomats at any meeting he has with foreign officials. So he's had meetings after that, so the numbers could very well rise. However, in comparison to Sturgeon, she attended 2 from October to March, October 22 into March 23. His most prolific month was June 23 when he had 10 meetings in his diary that were scheduled for talks with foreign dignitaries on the subject of international relations. They all took place, this is a cracker, when Mr Yousaf spent time in Brussels trying to schmooze with EU officials. Now, as it stands, regardless if you want to be independent or not, as it stands right now, the facts of the matter are we are part of the United Kingdom. Now, however you want to argue this next point, the United Kingdom voted out in a democratic referendum to leave the EU. Now, we've got a local minister in charge of Scotland, an area within the United Kingdom, who's going to Brussels and meeting 10 dignitaries. What for? We're not part of the EU. Among those who met in the trip was, that's a cracker, that's a belter, this one, fellow separatist and head of the Flemish government, Jan Jambon, sorry. Now, I don't know about you, but what's the point? What is the point of trying to get any agreements with this guy who is maybe even less powerful than Humza. Do you know what I mean? This guy is head of the Flemish government. What country's Flemish? I know what it is. It's a region taken up by a few countries. Now, I didn't even realise there was a movement to try and make that, a separate state. No prior knowledge of that. But Humza did. He's met the guy, right, in Brussels to get a memorandum of understanding on trade, research, culture and environment. What trade can you have with a country that doesn't exist? What powers does this Flemish guy have? Absolutely living in a proper fantasy world. He's also met New Zealand UK ambassador, Ireland's ambassador to the EU, that'd be handy. David McAllister, MEP, don't know who he is, and European Commission Vice President for International Relations, Maros Sefcovic. What for? I don't know. Might be worth an FOI if I can be bothered, but what am I going to learn from it? That Yousaf's a crackpot. Now, the visit included dinner with 5 members of the European Parliament's, Friends of Scotland group. That's nice, isn't it? August was another busy month for Mr Yousaf, attending 7 international relations meetings, figures that did not include a climate meeting with the US former presidential candidate and special envoy John Kerry, when the pair discussed independence. This is a former US presidential candidate. What influence is he going to have over independence that you've not got? You've not got a referendum planned for, right? The man is an absolute crackpot. That's a good one. In August the 9th, he met Australian High Commissioner Stephen Smith and gushed about a free trade deal between his country and the UK. Yeah, UK. That's terrible, people in the UK. So he's away meeting this Australian Commissioner on the strength of a UK free trade deal, which is fantastic. Among others, he met that month where Katrina Jacobs' daughter, I hope, who's the Prime Minister of Iceland, Ukrainian Ambassador Vadim Pristaiko, and Dr. Amjad Sadiq, founder of Acuat, which is an Islamic charity and interest-free loan provider. Wonder if he was needing a bit of tech. And there's a thing, you could maybe borrow off of them the money he gives to Gaza, save it coming out the public purse, which looks as if it's illegal. More of that to follow, by the way. I'm waiting for an FOI back about that, and could lead to big things, believe me. Mr Yousaf also attended a service to mark Pakistani Independence Day and a memorial service on the Ukrainian Independence Day. So, there you go. Humza, being Humza, trying to make yourself sound important, and I think making a complete arse of yourself. And this, we still don't know why he was in Qatar. So, there we go, Humza. Stop making up shite about RWA. Stop making up shite about Putin until it becomes factual. And stop meeting dignitaries, wasting everybody's time. Because your job, first and foremost, is to be the First Minister of Scotland. And I would suggest you're making an absolute Roger Hunt of that. Why don't you try and get that job done, sort that job out, before you start interfering with stuff that really has got nothing to do with you? And a bigger, massive tip, stop talking shite on Twitter. Hope you enjoyed this. If you have, give us a thumbs up. Consider hitting the subscribe and notifications button. Join in the chat and the comments. It's always a good laugh. But most importantly of all, have a great day. Cheery bye now.